What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here. Coming off the heels, last week I did a kind of an overview of what's coming to streaming: Netflix, Max, Amazon Prime, all that fun stuff for the month of November. So this week, we're going to do a review of Venom: The Last Dance, the final in the Venom trilogy starring Tom Hardy. Talk some about Smash, the musical coming to Broadway, kind of adaptation of the NBC series that ran 2 seasons, and talk some about Agatha All Along. So a few mini subjects that we're going to talk about on this week's episode. So buckle up and let's get right into Venom: The Last Dance. I will say right off the bat that there are going to be some spoilers that I'm going to cover here. So I'm going to try to keep it mostly vague, and then at the end, I'll give a heads up before I get into any major spoilers. But if you want to go into seeing the final movie in the Sony's Venom trilogy, completely spoiler-free, not knowing what to expect, then you may want to skip this portion. As always, time codes are in the description on the YouTube video, on pod platforms. So if there's ever a subject topic you're not really feeling, feel free to skip to the next one. Check out those time codes are always in the bottom. And always like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. I'll get in at the beginning this time. So, Venom: The Last Dance is, like I have said about 3 times already, is the final movie in Sony's Venom trilogy starring Tom Hardy. And I feel like while I really enjoy the character of Venom as a whole, I don't necessarily love the character of Venom in this movie trilogy. And while I like Tom Hardy as an actor as a whole, I don't necessarily love his Eddie Brock in this trilogy. Really, this trilogy is one that I feel like is encapsulated by saying it feels like an early 2000s superhero movie, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. This trilogy tries to go with dumb, fun, kind of over-the-top action, and I feel like it just gets lost in the first movie, and then it parts in the second one, Let There Be Carnage, and in this one. The fight scenes, the action scenes just seem kind of muddy, if that makes sense, especially in the first one, because Venom, the character he's fighting, Riot, I believe is what that symbiote's name was, they look almost extremely similar in the action. It's hard to track, and that kind of becomes distracting during it. I also feel like these movies have kept descending further and further into camp and just kind of cheesiness and over-the-top comedy, which, depending on what you're looking for, can be a good or a bad thing. For me, I didn't love it. My introduction to the character of Venom was way back in the day on computer when I was in middle school, high school. The Ultimate Spider-Man game that came out in the original Xbox and I think PS2 days. And that game, a lot of fun. The character of Venom, granted, it's the Ultimate Spider-Man version. If you're a comic book fan and have read all those different adaptations, it's a little bit different interpretation of it. But it was that. But I feel like my favorite and then people who grew up on the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. We had Topher Grace as Venom in Spider-Man 3, which was just weird, and it was a scrawny Venom, not really how Venom in the comics is, just insane. Like, basically almost like big enough that like The Rock should be playing Venom. Granted, it's a CGI character, but Venom in this series has just seems so disconnected from what Venom was in the comics. From my limited understanding, I read some of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. I've read some of the other ones here and there. But the symbiote attaches to Peter Parker first, and then it goes to Eddie Brock once Peter just sheds the symbiote, like we have in Spider-Man 3. In the church, clock tower falls onto Eddie. Eddie ends up getting taken over, and that's why Venom always had like the spider symbol on his chest too, because the symbiote Venom adapted it from Peter's Spider-Man costume. So in this trilogy, we go the entire trilogy, no spider symbol on there. There's some like white veins that they throw on Venom throughout the series to kind of make it a little bit, break it up, not make him seem just all black. But I don't love the campy tone that this goes with, partially because it just gets to the point of where we have so many other, like, Marvel does the comedy in almost all of their MCU movies, which you could argue they maybe go a little too far into it sometimes, and it can be distracting from some of the serious tones and themes of the actual movies. And then Deadpool does it to the extreme, but they're able to get kind of that niche, the kind of R-rated, over-the-top comedy. Venom doesn't get to go completely there, so it kind of just feels like a more mellow PG-13 version of what Deadpool wants to do, especially when this movie especially has a lot more of the Venom coming out on the tendrils in the Venom's head, talking to Eddie throughout him, having conversations throughout it constantly. And it didn't work for me in this movie. It was very distracting. I'm big on, I enjoy being able to kind of turn my brain off and enjoy action movies. I loved Fast 10, the Fast and Furious series as a whole. I said on here, Fast 9, I felt like jumped the shark a little bit with going to space. And that one, they almost went too far. Fast 10, though, kind of brought it back for me. And I love that. One of my favorite in the franchise, just Jason Momoa's villain, just over the top, kind of cheesy action. I can dig. I can get down with. But this, it just tonally seemed so at odds with everything. We're introduced in the first like 2 minutes to Null, this character that created the symbiotes, and that he's in like exile, and he has to go after the Codex is the one thing that he can be free, which we end up learning. It's very convoluted. The Codex is when Eddie died, and there's a minor spoiler here. In the very first movie, when Eddie died and Venom helped bring him back, that then the Codex was activated in Venom. I didn't really follow why that works, what the deal with that was, but that works as like a homing beacon to Null, who is played by Andy Serkis, who is much better as a CGI character and creature actor in this than he was as the director for Venom 2, because Venom 2 was rough. And I think part of that's with the script. Like, Tom Hardy's helped write the script, I think on all three, but definitely in these last two. And it's just, I don't know. I don't dig it. I like Tom Hardy. I respect him as an actor. This series just gets too much for me. I would have liked if they would have had, like, kept some more of the dark humor with it and gone into the dark action without. Venom's really been more of an anti-hero through this instead of a villain. I get why you want to do that. They're trying to establish their own franchise separate from the MCU. I get it, but it's not working. It's still making a shitload of money, though. So it's working in that sense, but just fairly panned, not really well reviewed. The CGI is hit or miss in it. But I don't know. This character of Null, the concept is very dark. It seems like a very violent character, what's going to happen. But you're going from that to then Venom and Eddie just cracking jokes when they're running for their life. There's a scene where Venom and Eddie get separated. Venom is in the water. They're in this like a lake, and Venom attaches to a fish, and we have a Venom fish, and then Venom attaches to a frog. We have a Venom frog. We have the Venom horse that you see in the trailer, which during that scene, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen is playing. And I have to say, the licensed music in this was shocking to me that they did. We have Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. We have Space Oddity by, oh my gosh, David Bowie. That was rough, just blanking on that one. It's daylight savings. I'm recording this on Sunday. Daylight savings happened. I know in theory it was fall back. You get an extra hour of sleep. For me, it was you're just up an hour earlier. So up at 4 a.m. because you all care. But yes, Space Oddity by David Bowie. And then there's also Wild World, Cat Stevens, Dancing Queen by ABBA, Memories by Maroon 5, which is at the very end, a very kind of almost trying to do, like, I'm sure it was in the can before then, so not tied to it, but it seemed like they're trying to do at the end, like what played in the credits of Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's like retrospective on the X-Men series, the Fox X-Men series. And it was like a almost retrospective on Eddie's time with Venom from the first two movies and parts of this one that just kind of wild. And then I had some help by Post Malone and Morgan Wallen is playing in the credits, which is just weird song choices, lots of licensed music in this. That was just interesting and honestly a little distracting for me. There's a lot of like side things going on. This Juno Temple is in it as a scientist who is investigating the symbiotes, and they've got just a bunch in a bunker in the lab. And her whole side story is she has one arm that doesn't work because her and her brother were on the beach and there was a lightning storm and the lightning struck her, and she has like the electricity almost like tattooed in her skin because it burned her, so burned into her skin and doesn't have any movement in that arm, and it killed her brother. Juno Temple is, I love her as Keeley in Ted Lasso, fantastic. In this movie it seemed horribly miscast, was not great in my opinion. I just the different side plots, like this had a bunch of MCU actors like Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is in the Doctor Strange movies as Baron Mordo, and then we also have Reese Evans, who played Lizard, Kirk Connors, in Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies and in No Way Home. And he's in this, but he's in this as just like a hippie who believes aliens exist, that Venom has a whole, Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, and Venom have a whole thing with throughout it that plays a fairly major part in it, which is also kind of wild. But they're not playing like their MCU characters, so them being cast in it is kind of weird. It's almost like, and they're not like the same character names or anything like that you could do multiverse things. They make comments at the beginning. Venom's like, so glad to be done with the multiverse when they're back in their universe. Just like winks and nods to things like that, but aren't done in like a clever way, in my opinion. Like in the very first scene with Eddie and Venom, they're in a bar, which is by Football is Life from Ted Lasso. I forget the actor's name, is running the bar. He had cameos at the end of No Way Home and Let There Be Carnage. But it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. The vibe, the tone is off. There's a scene where Venom knows that Knowles, these alien creatures that he sent to go kill Venom and get the codex, basically, so Noel can come to Earth to wipe him out. That they know anytime Venom fully transforms into Venom is when those creatures can track him. They can't if he separates from Eddie or if he's only partially out, like the head. But if he fully transforms, then they can trap him. And so Venom decides to have, they're in Vegas. They run into the owner of the bodega, the shop in New York, Mrs. Chen, who's been in the last two movies. They run into her there, and she's been a high roller, so she's up in the penthouse. And there's a scene where Venom knows that the creature can track it if it transforms fully into Venom. Venom still transforms fully into Venom to have a dance scene with Mrs. Chen to Dancing Queen by ABBA. And it's just so... there's no reason for it. It's so stupid. The whole thing is so stupid. And then at the end, there's a spoiler for the ending. All these symbiotes, they decide to help try fight the aliens. So all these symbiotes start taking over scientists, things like that, to start battling it. So it's multi-different colored and a variety of symbiotes just battling Knowles, creature, and alien. And ultimately, Venom separates from Eddie, attacks to the creature to basically sacrifice himself. Because if one of them died, then there's no way Noel can get the codex, Venom says. And so it ends with Venom dying Eddie going to New York because they said that's what they were going to do. That's where Venom and Eddie were heading. And then he has that retrospective about Venom. And then it's like, well, it's over. And then the mid-credit scene is Noel being intimidating and talking about, like, their lethal protector's gone. He's coming to Earth, essentially. And then after that is the football is life guy from Ted Lasso, who's the bartender who had been taken by the military organization, escaping from where the explosions were when Venom died. And you see a cockroach by one of the test tubes that had symbiote stuff that has some electricity with it, like hinting that symbiote or Venom may still be alive. And so for them, almost all their marketing is the final film, the final film, the final film. They're setting up more things in that Sony Spider-Man universe, whatever their name they've gone with that is. So we got Kraven the Hunter coming out in a couple, I think in a month. It's either at the end of this month or in December, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's a great actor, was great in Bullet Train, great in Kick-Ass, and he's playing the notorious Spider-Man villain, Kraven the Hunter. And it's like his story, and it looks like it's gonna be an over-the-top R-rated violent action movie. But there's weird things in there, like it looks like it has a version of Rhino in there, another Spider-Man villain, but it seems like that's tied to some like serum or some stupid shit like that. But I don't know. I don't feel great about that movie. It looks like it could have some fun action, but I think the movie as a whole is gonna stink. Sony does not have a very good track record for these movies. Morbius, rough. Madam Web, very rough. These Venom movies, they have moments of being fun, but as a whole, just ultimately disappointing to me. I like the character of Noel. It seems like he has a lot of potential, and I like that dark take and super intimidating. I think they need to lean more into that dark universe, so to speak, and then it differentiates them from Marvel a little bit more, because Marvel tonally, yeah, they're getting some with the new Daredevil Born Again series is going to be more mature rated and violent, but that's like street level violent. And that's what Echo was, a little bit more violent. The Netflix series a little bit more violent. Agatha All Along, we're getting into some dark stuff with the witches, but overall that was still a kind of bubbly show, which we'll talk about here at the end of the episode. But I think Sony just needs to lean into the dark side with Noel, with Kraven, go with the ultraviolent, do your R-rated, these properties, these villains, set up your Sinister Six, which are Spider-Man villains, yes. But I think that's where they could potentially have the best chance of crossing over with Marvel if they build out these, if they put some more work into them and get some good directors and writers behind it. Because they're getting good talent. Like Tom Hardy is a good actor. Aaron Taylor Johnson is a good actor. I'm not going to say Dakota Johnson's a good actor, but Jared Leto is an interesting actor. They're tapping this talent, but I don't know if it's, from what reports have said, it's just too much studio interference on it. But I want them to lean in to building these kind of dark, powerful, established villains. Make them villains. Like, you don't need to give them all like kind of justification for their motives throughout it and reasons why they do it. Like, it's just not necessary. And so I kind of want to do that, and then maybe have the villains pop over. The Sinister Six can pop over in the Secret Wars movies or something like that. I don't know. I want them to do some more work on the villains, go dark with it, stay out of the campy, cheesy comedy vibes with it, because you just don't do it very well. I mean, they did the campy, cheesy really well, if that's what they're going for. It's just, I don't love it. Like, that's what kind of ruined the second one, Let There Be Carnage. Carnage's character is just attached. The symbiote is attached to a serial killer. Cletus Cassidy was played by Woody Harrelson in it, and it was just, his vibe was weird for it. It was just super weird casting for it, and they just didn't capitalize on that character at all, I felt like, and they went too campy, funny with it instead of leaning into the dark side. And I don't know if that's a studio thing or if a Tom Hardy wanted to have fun with it or what, but ultimately I'd give Venom The Last Dance Probably a 5 out of 10. It's just not very good. Even if you shut your brain off and just want a fun action movie, it gets too in its head with things that I don't feel like it's really even that fun. So, there's my review of Venom the Last Dance. Now, this weekend, I continued kind of binge watching my rewatch of Smash, the NBC series. I've talked about it a lot on here. It was canceled after 2 seasons. Stars Catherine McPhee and Megan Hilty, and along with Kristen Borle, Deborah Messing, Angelica Houston. Just a really solid cast. Very over the top drama. Just kind of soap opera-y at sometimes, but has some fantastic original music throughout it. Premise is they're creating this musical about Marilyn Monroe, titled Bombshell. It gets about halfway through the first season, and that's what the show is about. Just this creative teams of musical, the work behind getting a musical made. What goes into that? In season 2, Jeremy Jordan comes in as Jimmy, who's writing his own musical, and Catherine McPhee's character, Karen, and works with Derek, kind of disgraced director, to kind of put their show together, The Hit List, which is the one that I prefer the music from. It's kind of more the pop modern musical that I'm drawn to a lot more, as we've talked about on here. But they announced, well, originally in 2020, that they were starting development on a stage musical of Smash, an adaptation, which people had been wanting to see, because they had like workshops. They had like performances of both Bombshell, the musical from it about Marilyn Monroe, and The Hit List. And so people have been wanting to see these shows on stage for a long time. And they announced that they're doing a Broadway musical of it. Came back up a few years ago. It is getting close to coming out. It premieres, previews start March 11th, and then the official opening and official run start April 10th. So that's happening at the Imperial Theater in Broadway. And so it's coming. They got dates, cast, everything. But producers have said that this will depart liberally from the show, which, of course, you've got basically I think there's like 36 episodes of the TV show. Yeah, you're not going to be able to capture that in a 2-3 hour musical. It's just not possible, especially not well. And there's so many different subplots that you can cut for the stage, obviously. But this is billed as a comedy about a musical. The show is, I would not even remotely categorize it as a comedy. Yes, there are some funny lines and moments, but primarily this is a musical drama. That's what it is a drama, almost soap opera-y at times. It is about the relationships. It is about the struggle, heartache, the backstabbing, just all of this, like the addiction to fame, to pills, like things like that happen in this. There's some very serious themes that are attached, and then there's betrayal, there's cheating, there's everyone sleeping with everyone, like things like that you look for in like reality TV. And so I would not categorize it as a comedy. So I don't know how I feel about this musical being tagged as a comedy about a musical. I feel like writing comedy can be very difficult, especially musical comedy, because the timing, the songs, and how you're nailing those, as well as the main musical at the core of it, the Marilyn Monroe music and musical, not funny songs. They're songs about Marilyn, her career, her progression. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it's going to be. I'm not sure how they're going to condense it. My guess would be that it's primarily just around Bombshell. Like all the songs from the Hit List, the Jeremy Jordan piece, those are going to be cut out. You know it's changing pretty liberally from it, because some of the main characters in the show are Derek, the director, Tom and Julia, who are the writers, who were played respectively by Kristen Borle and Deborah Messing. And just those characters aren't even part of it anymore. So the main two characters, Ivy is played by Robin Herder, in this Broadway adaptation. And then Karen is played by Carolyn Bowman. So those two characters still exist and made it. But Derek, who's the British director, no Derek on there. There is an actor, Brooks Ashmanskas, is playing Nigel. Nigel seems like a British name. Could be the same person. That could be the director. But ultimately, this musical is set up. The score is by Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who wrote over 24 songs for the show. So they know this music. They know this world. And also the song Let Me Be Your Star from there, probably one of the more memorable ones. One of my favorites is Don't Forget About Me. But Let Me Be Your Star was Emmy nominated, didn't win. But Rick Ellis, who worked on Jersey Boys, Peter and the Starcatcher, and then Bob Martin, who worked on The Prom and The Drowsy Chaperone, they are writing the book. And then the Joshua Bergassi, don't know the pronunciation on that, choreographed on the show Smash. He's coming back as a choreographer for the stage show. Jennifer Hudson appeared in season 2. She's also working as a producer and joining the producing team for this production as well. So in addition to Robin Herder as Ivy, Carolyn Bowman as Karen, Krista Rodriguez played Anna in season 2 of Smash, and she is playing a character named Tracy in the stage production. So I'm very interested in the show because I love the series. As cheesy and as stupid and cringy as it is sometimes, I love the original music in it. I think it has a lot of good ones, both around Bombshell the Maryland one, and like I said, the songs from the hit list in season 2 are fantastic. Like Caught in the Storm is so good, highly recommend. And Pasek and Paul wrote some of the songs, who are the creative team behind Dear Evan Hansen, A Greatest Showman. They wrote some of the hit list songs in season 2. Fun fact. So this musical, the marketing on it is kind of weird for me on like Twitter and how the official Smash the Musical account is running things. So like I said, tagged a comedy about a musical. And then they're sharing tweets where people are asking like, well, is it about the show they're making in Smash, or is it about Smash as a whole, the Smash show? And they're like, they quote tweeted, it says Smash and it's completely different, but it's also still Smash, which you're trying to get cute, trying to get tongue in cheek. I get it. You're trying to market it. I don't love how they're marketing it so far. A lot of the references. So in the TV series, there's Tom, who is the composer for the musical. His assistant is leaking things, and that's how things get started. So they had a nod to that when they were working on the creative of this. They had some clips of like rehearsals and numbers, and they're like, oh, we don't know, our assistant must have leaked this, which if you didn't watch the TV show, you're not going to know that. I don't feel like it's being marketed well for people who aren't familiar with the NBC series. So it'll be interesting to see. And I will just note too, the cast in the show, there's a lot of musical people pop up, like Harvey Firestone pops up in season 2. You have Bernadette Peters in it. You have, like I said, Christian Borle. You also have Norbert Leo Burtz is in a few things, and Brian Darcy James, who played Shrek. He is also in it, and just a lot of great talent in the TV show. But Christian Borle in particular, Brad and I talked about him a bit in Spamalot when we did our Spamalot episode, and I called out his role in this and that he's been in a lot of cool things. I saw this past week he did a video with Playbill that was put out on YouTube, where it was called My Life in the Theater, where he kind of looks back on his career and the different production, the shows he's been in. And it was really cool to see him talk about that. So I think it's like 27 minutes long. Recommend you go out and check that out. He's been in a lot of show, worked on a lot of things, a lot of cool insights that he told on there. So go check that out on YouTube. That's all I'm gonna say about Smash. Like, I hope it does well. I'd love to be able to see this. I'd love for it to take off, become big, come touring, or I'd love to be able to go to New York and see this. But like I said, previews start March 11th, and the official opening is April 10th. So go get tickets, check it out, leave reviews, and also comment what your favorite song, if you have watched Smash, let me know what your favorite song from the TV show is in the comments. So go do that. I'm going to wrap it up with just a real quick kind of review of Agatha All Along, the Disney Plus series starring Catherine Hahn that follows Agatha Harkness, a witch, as she goes down the witch's road and tries to get her power back. This I will talk about some spoilers, but before I get into that, I just want to say I think this is one of the best Disney Plus series in general, especially one of the best Disney Plus Marvel series and one of the best Marvel projects that we've had in recent years. So if you were hesitant on it, if the trailers did nothing for you and you didn't check this out, I would encourage you to give another chance. Go watch it. Now get into some spoilers on it. This series closed out. I'm not going to go a whole overview of the whole season because I've talked about it sporadically throughout here. But the final 2 episodes dropped on October 30th. And I thought they did a really nice job putting a bow on it. The final episode especially, Catherine Hahn gives a fantastic emotional performance behind it. Aubrey Plaza pulls a lot of weight in the final 2 episodes as well. And I think it overall just... It was one of the more... It has some of the largest implications of any of the Marvel shows on Disney Plus and even the movies and recent events. Just the different power dynamics that's introducing and these different characters. A standout to me was Sashir Zamata's character, Jennifer Kale, and who does survive the finale. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see her again. But I thought, I've seen some behind the scenes. They did a great use of practical effects in this series as well. Just every performance in it is fantastic. Joe Locke as William Kaplan, aka Billy Maximoff, aka Wiccan, does a really good job in it for how that character is written and what that character is supposed to be. I don't particularly love his character. I'm not like I can't wait to see him in more projects, but he does do a really good job with it. One thing I will say, there were a lot of kind of surprises along the road in this show, and there's a lot of variety in the episodes. Almost each episode in the episode 2 and on, 2 through 7, is just kind of going through a different journey on the road. And so you're looking at different trials, and so you're getting different time periods, or you're getting different vibes, different aesthetics almost from episode to episode. So we got to see a lot of variety, and I thought it was really well done and kept it interesting and fun and kept you kind of sucked in. I will say the very ending, so extra spoiler here, I didn't love how the ending was just Billy is now kind of made peace with Ghost Agatha, and it's those two almost seeming like they're going to do a buddy cop adventure movie going to track down Tommy, who Billy had gotten, Wanda's other kid, his twin brother, had gotten somehow helped get transferred into someone else's body. So he knows Tommy's out there and needs to go find him. And it just set up that Agatha and Billy are going to go on this journey. While I loved this series, I loved the cast, I thought it was a lot of fun, I don't need a Billy and Agatha travel find Tommy mystery series. That being said, maybe they'll surprise me and it'll be great, but I don't know. Didn't really do anything. I'm not really excited to see that pair. I liked the cast as a whole throughout it and going on the journey and the story that this told. I think it works well as a mini series. I don't know that I want to see Catherine Hahn and Joe Locke for an entire series on their own. But highly recommend Agatha All Along. Go check it out if you have even some interest in there. And if you made it to the end of this episode, you have to, because you got through the Venom review and this one. So thank you all, everyone. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all, everyone. Listen, watch, subscribing. I know it's been a little bit weird, rough, and random. I've had a lot more solo ones the past couple months. Fortunately, that's just how it works sometimes, is that real life gets in the way and it makes things harder to record, coordinate, and get things done. So, hoping to still have Rayleigh and I's review of Across the Universe sometime this month. We're getting into holiday season, so I'm trying to get some pre-recorded too, so we can get some drops, because I got lots of traveling coming up. I also want to review, if we don't get the review in for it, I highly recommend people still check it out. Black Friday is a musical that Team Star Kid did around Black Friday. It's kind of like a horror musical. It's very interesting. I watched it once a few years ago. I don't remember that much about it, but I generally really enjoy Star Kid's projects. We reviewed Twisted on here, which I thought was fantastic. I talked about the VHS Christmas Carol that they did last year. As last December, I did a review on that. And they also had When Nerdy Prudes Must Die, that I talked about that a little bit as well. So this month, it's Thanksgiving month. We're getting closer to the holiday season. Go watch Black Friday by Team Star Kid, and hopefully we'll have a review of that out here as well. And if not, you haven't wasted your time. You've watched an interesting kind of indie musical from a fantastic production crew. So watch Black Friday by Team Star Kid. This is the month Wicked is coming, so we will be talking about Wicked at some point based on when it comes out, and that's the week before Thanksgiving. We might get it dropped the day before Thanksgiving, review on it. Otherwise, it'll be early December, we're hoping to. So stay tuned for that. That's something to look forward to. And like I talked about last week, there's a few Christmas musicals coming out that Rayleigh and I will probably try to review, or maybe Brad and I, for the month of December. So thank you all watching, listening, subscribing, following. Go do all those things. Stay warm. We're getting into cold time. We're getting into where it gets dark at 6 p.m. at night. But don't let that seasonal depression get to you. Listen to the pod for some fun. And listen to some great music. I'm really digging Ego by Halsey right now. Random choice, but that is what I'm vibing with right now. So that is the song I will send out with you. Recommendation. Thank you all watching, listening. Love you all. Have a great November. And don't forget to go down once more. Later.